on the campus of Northeast State University, Northeast State Community College. I just upgraded us one. What we saw this morning was all so impressive. This is a very impressive community college campus. The Regents have had a chance to take some tours. We saw the incredible television production facilities. We had a chance to have a little Bristol experience with the incredible race simulator, and I think Regent Danny Varlin has found her new calling. And we also got to see that beautiful Bell helicopter where Northeast State has such an incredible relationship, as our schools are supposed to, with local employers. It's all about workforce development and how we work together. So we are off to an impressive start here at Northeast State Community College, and we appreciate Dr. Gilliam and her team and look forward to hearing from her as the day goes by. Traditionally, as I said, this is our afternoon of committee meetings, and then we reconvene tomorrow for our full board meeting. But I first, before we begin our committee work, want to mention two things. The first is not to do what I just did, and that is forget to turn on your microphone. The little button in the middle there that clearly says push, and the green light will show that you are activated when you're ready to speak. And second, each time we travel, our board has the opportunity to include faculty and student representatives from our community colleges and our TCATs with us. And it's always helpful insight to have these folks, and it's a real honor to have you take time out of your busy schedules to join us. I'd love to just introduce these four fine folks to you this afternoon. The first is Frances Cañado, who is our faculty representative from here at Northeast State. She is an assistant professor of Spanish. She is currently president of the Faculty Senate, which is a big job in and of itself. And you are a graduate of our Maxine Smith Fellows program, which we're so proud of. So take a moment and tell us about yourself, Frances.
Well, thank you. Again, my name is Frances Canedo. I am from Bolivia. I started working here at Northeast State in 2008, and this is the best place to work you can hope for. This is a great family, and it's wonderful. And as for Maxine Smith, that is an experience that it has no words. The rewards that I have gotten from that experience have been wonderful.
That's great. That's great. Are you loving life in the Tri-Cities area?
Yes, it's very calm here. It took me a while to get used to the calm because I come from a big city, so I was used to public transportation and things like that. But now, you know, you get used to the mountain life here.
Excellent.
Great.
Excellent. We're fortunate to have you here at this great place. Thank you. Thank you. And Seth Manning is our student representative from here at Northeast State. He was actually born in upstate New York, but Northeast Tennessee has been his home. As Governor Bredesen used to say, I was born somewhere else, but I got here as quickly as I could. You made a choice, I guess, to become part of the Governor's Tennessee Promise Initiative and pick Northeast State, which is excellent. You are studying history and political science, which is dear to a couple of us sitting here at this table who have been involved in politics and government. And so tell us a little bit about yourself.
As you said, I do originally come from upstate New York, but I've lived here most of my life. I don't think you'll detect an accent on most words I say, hopefully. But yeah, like you said, I really have a passion for history and political science. It's something that down the line I might want to maybe even come back to Northeast State and teach, or ETSU, where I plan to go next. And I've just really loved coming here to Northeast State. I really had a tough time deciding where I wanted to go at first, and I was really on the fence about going to Northeast State. And then I came here, and all those worries and everything really melted away. There's a great sense of community, and just the outside activities, what I've been able to do, travel to Nashville for TISL, which is the Tennessee Intercollegiate State Legislature, and just really get involved on campus. I've loved it here, and I'm going to finish my degree at the end of this year and then go on to ETSU, and it's just been an amazing experience.
That's great. Well, you are an amazing student, so we thank you. And we're glad you're staying in the Board of Regents family here with us at ETSU. That's excellent. So well done and welcome.
Thank you.
Emma Hobson is our faculty rep from the TCAT just up the road at Elizabethton. She is a registered nurse and a nursing manager who has been with us, I guess, for about 13 years in the program at Elizabethton. And she was named Teacher of the Year by the American Technical Education Association. There is nothing better than being honored by your colleagues. That is very impressive. You were born in Carter County, but have moved far, far away to Unicoi County. But Carter County, you still have those deep Carter County roots, right? With her master's in nursing education, and I understand you may be working on furthering your education as well. So tell us about you.
Hello, my name is Emma Hobson, and I teach with the TCAT in Elizabethton. I teach in the practical nursing program, and I have been a nurse for many years, even though I'm very young, 18. And I had to do everything I did, including intensive care and all those kinds of things, in order to be able to be a good teacher. But I found teaching to be my passion, and it allowed me to go on and pursue my nursing education degree as a master's, and then currently I'm working on my certification for nurse educator, and want to continue on. I love teaching, and I love our students, and it's just a pleasure. And most of them go on. They go on to the either ETSU or Northeast State and continue on, which is just a privilege to see them as you go back to clinical.
Thank you.
Thank
Your
you.
passion and your sincerity show, so we thank you. And Paul Stills is our student representative from the TCAT at Elizabethton this afternoon. And just like Seth came in through Tennessee Promise, you have connected with us, so to speak, through the Tennessee Reconnect program, as I gather. You have a background with the United States Navy, and we applaud and appreciate your service to our country. So you're a student now in our electricity and electronics program. Tell us, what was the appeal for Tennessee Reconnect to you? Tell us about yourself, Paul.
Well, I guess I recently moved here about 2 years ago, and getting jobs in this area does not really pay very well unless you have a degree. And I've decided that that's what I need to do, because that's what they want. I mean, I have specialty skills in certain items, like in the Navy I did electronics, and so I figured I'd just continue on and refresh my skills in that area and pursue that and get my degree, and we'll see where that goes.
Excellent. And you chose to move to Tennessee after your Navy service? Or?
I know I had a family, my father passed, and I
Okay.
had to come take care of the estate, so.
I understand.
I'm still dealing with those issues, but TCAT's been good to me. Mr. Blevins, the dean, has got me a job at Kennemetal. So I'm now working, and I'm going to school. I don't know how that's going to work, but I'm pretty busy at the moment, and I think it'll all work out in the end.
Excellent. You have a busy plate, and we thank you
Yes.
for joining us. So
All right. Well,
thank you for
I-
sharing your story.
I appreciate
So
it.
you were all four All-Stars, so we are honored to have you with us. We're going to go through a lot of our committee business work this afternoon, but I hope you will not hesitate if you have a question or a comment, just to let the committee chairs know as we move through this, because we'd love to have your voice included in our work this afternoon. So once again, welcome. We will now begin our committee meetings. We have 6 to go through this afternoon. So to our Audit Committee Chairman, Regent Griscom, let's get to work.
I'll try to meet your standards.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, good afternoon. Mary, can I ask you to call the roll, please, see if we've got a quorum?
Regent Apple.
Here.
Regent Duckett. Regent Freeman. Regent Griscom.
Here.
Regent Markham. Regent Shockey.
Here.
Regent Smith. You have a quorum.
Thank you. All right, Tammy, we're going to start with the consent agenda. And you've had these materials provided to you. They're on the agenda. If anybody wants to take one of the items off, please let me know at this point. Otherwise, we will consider both of them as one, and it does require a voice vote. Tammy?
Tammy.
The first item is a review of a revised internal audit charter, and this is for Austin Peay State University because they had a change in their director. And the second item is a review of revisions to the 2015 internal audit plans. And so these items are up for you to consider for vote unless you would like further discussion.
Do I have a motion to approve? Do I have a second? Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Thank you much. Item number 2, the committee will remember that several weeks ago, we had a discussion on the Focus Act, which at that point was still under consideration in the General Assembly. It now has been passed and signed into law by the governor. But our discussion was looking at the audit functions, particularly looking at in terms of the institutions that we've all sort of worked with and as a Board of Regents, and as we now see our four-year schools making different choices and setting up their own boards, how this function then carries, and Chancellor Gregory had walked us through some of the legal and statute requirements. So this was an update for us now that's passed. So Chancellor, may I call on you, please?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good afternoon to the members of the committee. I might, if I could, just take a minute to refresh our minds on the discussion we had previously. The Focus Act itself dealt primarily with one particular section of the code that authorizes the Board of Regents system. Over time, there have been other additions to the code, as you might guess, in other areas of the state statutes. And in particular, in 2004, the state passed a statute that established audit committees for higher education. That is why this committee actually exists. And it prescribes the method of an institution having a system having a audit committee and its functions. So that was not addressed in the Focus Act. And part of what the chairman has asked me to do, and what Tammy and I are pursuing, are discussions with both the administration as well as the Division of State Audit about how to address this as the boards themselves stand up. The legislature in 2005 actually came back and established an audit statute for all boards and commissions of the state. So at present, I think there's kind of a construct that you can make that that's kind of what the institutions would be running under. But I think likely there'll be a discussion regarding whether or not the statute needs to be more explicit as it relates to the institutional boards. And further, trying to define the relationship of our system audit to the institutional boards as they begin to take their own responsibilities. So, Mr. Chairman, on Monday of this upcoming week, Tammy and myself will be meeting with representatives of the administration, also representatives of state audit, and we'll be engaging in those discussions really around, does the statute need to be amended, and what is the relationship of our system office as we move into this new governance structure. So I hope to be able to return back to the committee and be able to give you further results of our discussion as we move forward.
Tammy, is there anything, Tammy, that you want to add before opening up for questions? Tammy?
I included some of the items in the materials for you that are currently come to the system office or to the audit committee for approval, such as the appointment of internal auditors at the campus must be approved by the chancellor. That's an example. Another example are the audits of the president's expenses each year. So those are some of the issues that were addressed in the 2004 legislation that need clarification.
Do committee members have any questions on for either the chancellor or for Tammy? If not, thank you, and we will wait, after your meeting on Monday, which probably will give us maybe a little more clarification. So Thank you very much. All right, let's move to item number 3, which is the proposed budget for system-wide internal audit. It will require a voice vote. I want to make one point here that Tammy and I have talked about just very briefly. We're looking at a budget that clearly goes forward with how we perform today. And we do know that as all the Focus Act comes into, occurs, and the four-year schools set up their own boards, our budget probably is going to look a little bit different going forward. But so as the committee looks at this, just know this is typically what we'd be doing with, as an audit committee for the system as it exists today. But just know that when you look at this, and I've asked Tammy to look at some items for us going forward, so we have a better feel for, the type of work that's done that particularly is focused on the four-year schools, and the type of work that is done for community colleges and TCATs. So with that, Tammy, let me mention one other thing, then I'll turn to you. Also in this, as we look at the budget for system-wide internal audit, one of the pieces that's important is for us as a committee to make sure that we've looked at the fact that independence is fostered within the system, meaning that the auditor and the staff of the auditor is able to, to do their work, that there is a reporting function, as you all know, back to us as an audit committee. Tammy, there have been discussions, and based on the conversations I've had, I feel comfortable that independence is there, is being handled the right way. But I just wanted to share it with you all. That is one piece that's important for us as a committee. So Tammy, with that, and I said this does require a voice vote.
Thank you. There's a schedule attached that shows the budget for fiscal year 2017 and a comparative budget for fiscal year 2016. In total, the budget was revised from $729,000 to $759,000. This increase is primarily related to salaries and benefits for the 6 staff in our office. There was a small decrease in the operating expenses due to some costs that will not be paid by the system office this year, but will be charged back to the institutions, and that is for the audit software that we purchased. In total, the salaries and benefits make up 90% of our budget, with the remaining operating and travel professional development cost making up the difference, about 10% for those items. As Regent Griscom commented, this is the current operations of our office, and we are certainly going through some governance changes right now and potentially organizational changes in the future. But I would encourage the committee going forward to consider a compliance officer for the system office. And as I've mentioned previously, the number of complaints, allegations that we receive has increased over time. The last 2 years has seen a much higher number of issues being reported. So that too has created somewhat of a backlog, and so we are trying to deal with that as we go along. But those are resources that are potentially needed and will be determined in the future as other changes are made for the system office.
Are there questions for Tammy? Let me make that other point, because one of the things, again, that I asked Tammy to look at is for us as a committee to get a feel for what I call buckets that these complaints fall into, so we're able to look at them by institution and by sectors, from 4 years to community colleges to TCATs. And I think that'll give us as a committee a much better understanding of, of the complaints that are filed, where they're filed within those broad categories. And as we then sit down and look at resources going forward, I think it gives a better snapshot. I also want to say to all the community college people some who were not really excited when we kept pushing to make sure they had their own independent auditor on their campus, that the Focus Act now, I think, really sends the signal of why that was important to do even before the Focus Act got done. Because I know in the situation, if I remember right, involving MTSU, where they were handling 2 or 3 community colleges in addition to Middle Tennessee. So the fact that all of our community colleges have their own auditor, I think it sets us, Chancellor, in a better position going forward as we look at the changes.
Question. When we talk about compliance, are we looking at it from a central compliance officer to serve all of our institutions, or are we looking at having compliance officers at each facility?
Some of the schools currently have a compliance function or have a compliance officer. Some schools have compliance officers in specific areas such as athletics or environmental areas or and other areas. But the position that I mentioned, I'm talking about a system office position that the individuals on the campuses that would then provide information as to their compliance efforts and risk analysis that they perform to determine if they're compliant. And the reason for the system office position would be to provide information to the board, to provide assurance as to the activities that are ongoing on the campuses.
Any other questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the budget for system-wide internal audit.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Thank you. All right, Tammy, now we're ready for information reporting. First is the review of comptroller's audit reports.
The first item is a report for East Tennessee State University, their annual financial audit performed by the Division of State Audit for the fiscal year end June 30, 2015. ETSU had no audit findings and no instances of noncompliance to be reported. They had an unmodified opinion on their financial statements. So a very good report. That is the only report from the Comptroller's Office this quarter.
Okay, and you've got an update on corrective actions on performance audit findings. Tammy?
Yes. The performance audit report was issued by the Division of State Audit in January of 2014. It had 9 audit findings. The system office staff and others in the system have worked to resolve those issues. We had 3 items last quarter that were still showing us in progress. We have now considering finding number 5 resolved. It is regarding the dual admission agreements that are in place. Based on information from THEC, they have a policy in place regarding dual admission agreements. TBR institutions have implemented 31 dual admissions agreements, and most are based on geographic proximity, which was part of the response to the finding from TBR is that we would pursue legislative changes, which did occur, to allow those agreements to be based on those type geographic proximity considerations. We have 2 other findings that are still in progress. Finding 2, which is regarding the need to acknowledge all transfer credits that students bring into an institution when they transfer, and several activities have been put in place for those, including the transfer pathways. Recently, the Academic Affairs Office has implemented a process to perform a 5-year review so that every transfer pathway would, over the next 5 years, go through a review so that they remain current. The part of that finding that is still in progress is the completion of a common data repository, which would allow additional ways to evaluate whether transfer credits are being recognized. Finding 6 was regarding the foundation policy and foundation agreements in place, And the system office and the board approved that revised foundation policy. The schools have until September of 2016 to implement new foundation agreements. And at this time, none of the agreements have been submitted to TBR.
Any questions on this item? If not, then Tammy, let's go to the review of internal audit reports, please.
We attempted to do a system-wide audit of the Complete College Tennessee Act outcome measures. A few institutions, due to other issues, were not able to complete their reports, and they are listed on the second page of the summary that is in your materials, page 2 of 4. And but most of the schools did complete their audits. The others are in progress or will be completed in the future. The period covered was the academic year 2014-15 and the fall of 2015. The auditors looked at all of the outcome measures that are accumulated by the institutions using enrollment and other similar data, as well as research and service expenditures and workforce hours. Most of the results show that the schools have adequate controls in place and that the information reported was accurate. There were 3 findings or observations as a result of the completion of these audits. One was that one school did have some inaccurate information reported for research and service expenditures due to the inclusion of certain items that did not meet the criteria established by THEC, and the net effect of that was $88,000 for Austin P. Another item was that workforce development data and reporting controls need to be strengthened for Columbia State. Hours were understated for workforce development, resulting to an approximate difference in funding of in the formula of $5,900. The third item was that one school, Pellissippi State, did not have an adequate review process and sent in the wrong data file, so that the wrong number of records and therefore the wrong data was used in the formula. This information has now been revised and resubmitted to THEC, so, and they are implementing additional review procedures to ensure the correct information is submitted. Any questions on these items?
I've got one question, Chancellor, that under Complete College Act now, while we're rolling all this together as this TBR, is this another area, as you're looking for clarification, that for our 4-year schools, it may be that they're not going to continue coming to TBR, but going to THEC or somebody else, so so we know what's going on, but also so our institutions know as well?
Yes, so this happens to be a good example of some of the things that we are seeking clarification on as to where these kind of reports come into the future, so that there is sort of a clear understanding of the fact that progress is being made in these areas.
Thank you. Any other questions for Tammy? If not, Tammy, let's move to Section 5, which is review of professional auditing standards, please.
The internal audit functions in state government are required by state law to follow the professional auditing standards of the Institute of Internal Auditors, and our staff do follow those standards. The standards require that we perform have a peer review every 5 years, and also a quality assurance program, which includes an internal review. Our auditors are currently performing a self-assessment to determine compliance with the standards, and we will provide a report to you on that at the next meeting. For this meeting, I wanted to introduce or remind you about these standards so that you would be aware of them and their requirements before the reports are provided to you next quarter. The standards are broken into two main areas: attribute standards and performance standards. The attribute standards address the standards for the function and the staff, and they include the independence and objectivity of the auditor. So not only is it good business practice for the internal audit to report to the board, it is also part of the requirement that auditors have as much independence as possible to enable them to provide information that is not filtered in any way before it is provided to you. Also, do professional care in their work is a requirement, as well as the quality assurance and improvement program that I mentioned. Those are the attribute standards. The performance standards address the work that the auditors perform, and it includes managing the audit activity. It must be managed to ensure that it is adding value to the organization, that the recommendations and results of audits are information that are important to the function. The work must contribute to the improvement of government, risk management, and control processes. So our findings that we write or observations that we provide to management are meant to give them information to change policies or revise policies, implement additional controls or revise controls, so that the functions of the organization are improved and working to meet the goals of the organization. There are additional performance standards here that talk about adequate planning, documenting the work that is done, and communicating the results of that work to management and to the board, so that in a way that is helpful to them, so that they may take the action that they need to take to address any issues. And then one of the things that Regent Griscom reminds me of frequently is monitoring the findings to ensure that corrective action is taken, and that also is one of the requirements of our standards.
Thank you, Tammy. Any questions? If not, I will entertain a motion to end this session, and we're going to go into executive session, and we will be going to a different room. So do I have a motion to adjourn the public portion of the audit committee?
So moved.
Second? All those in favor say aye. Thank you very much. Thank you, Tammy, and we will go into executive session.
So for our guests and our audience, Audit Committee will be leaving this room for a short period of time. We will reconvene here for the Finance and Business Operations Committee, likely within the next 15 to 30 minutes. So thank you all. We'll be back.
Check, check.
Let me call to order the Finance and Business Operations Committee meeting. I would like to start with Madam Chair calling the roll to verify that we have a quorum.
Excuse me. Regent Apple? Wrong committee. I'm sorry. Regent Duckett?
Here.
Regent Freeman? Here. Regent Griscom? Here. Regent Russell? Here. Regent Roddy? Regent Smith? Here. Regent Thomas? Here. You have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Quorum being present, therefore, the meeting is officially called to order. The first item on the agenda is the review of our consent agenda. The consent agenda items being presented today for approval are as follows. The minutes from the April 12th and May 11th, 2016 special called meeting of the Finance and Business Operations Committee. Approval of proposed revisions to policy 4.01.01.20 regarding debt management, and Dyersburg State Community College request to waive out-of-state tuition for residents of New Madrid County in Missouri. Does anyone want to remove any of those items from the consent agenda for a separate vote? Hearing no request, is there a motion to approve the items on the consent agenda?
So moved.
It's been properly motioned and second. This item requires a voice vote. All in favor signify by aye. Opposes, same sign. Hearing none, items on the consent agenda are hereby approved. The next agenda item is approval of the minutes from our June 7th, 2016 special called meeting of the Finance and Business Operations Committee, recommending approval of maintenance fees and tuition for the 2016-2017 fiscal year. Prior to asking for a motion on these minutes, I would like to call on Vice Chancellor Sims to provide information regarding a dual enrollment rate that was omitted from the staff's recommendations at our June 7th committee meeting. Vice Chancellor Sims.
Thank you, Chairman Duckett, members. First of all, if I can ask April to advance me one slide. One, just as a reminder for the committee, the minutes that you'll be considering from the June 7th meeting incorporate maintenance fee changes that are shown on the left-hand side of this chart. So you'll see that these rates of increased annual amounts for students engaged in 12 hours, the rates of increase are all less or under, except for our professional schools, are under 3%. The right-hand side of the chart incorporates the impact of mandatory fee changes. So you see again the annual dollar amount, annual change, and then the percent change. The item that the chairman just referred to in preparing the recommendations for the June 7th meeting, your staff omitted a rate. This is somewhat of a new rate. You'll recall that the administration had asked us a year or so ago to develop a dual enrollment rate that incorporated mandatory fees and maintenance fees so that the dual enrollment grant would fully fund one course for a student. That resulted in an hourly rate of $166. 3 times 166 kept us under $500. Unfortunately, one of the things that we found as that was being implemented is students engaged in more than 12 hours of dual enrollment that resulted in them paying more than a regular student might pay. A regular student, a non-dual enrolled student enrolled in 15 hours was paying less than our dual enrollment students were. What we're bringing forward to you is a recommendation that we establish in similar fashion that we do for our regular students, that we establish a supplemental rate for those hours over 12, that rate being $33, that will treat them on parity with a regularly enrolled student at our community colleges and universities. The caveat to that, the note that we'll mention in just a minute is we have a couple of universities that have adopted this rate, but are potentially not in a position to implement the supplemental rate. In conversation with them, at least one of those institutions does not believe they have any students that are dually enrolled that exceed 12 hours. The other institution has maybe 2 or 3 students a year that exceed. So we want to, a part of our request will be that you grant the chancellor authority to waive that requirement or establish an alternate system in those situations. Mr. Chair, what is in front of you is actually just your minutes. After you act on your minutes, which I believe requires a roll call vote, we'll then ask for you to consider this recommendation on dual enrollment fees.
Thank you, Vice Chancellor Sims. With that background, as he indicated before us, is the approval of the minutes from the June 7th meeting. Does anyone have any corrections to those minutes? If not, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second? Is there a second? Second. Thank you. This matter, as indicated, requires a roll call vote. All in favor signify by aye. Oh, discussion, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I just want to make one point, Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, and it will not surprise Vice Chancellor Sims. If you do the math, you talked about under 3% increase, but if you look at the maintenance and the mandatory for community colleges, it averages out to $100. And for our four-year institution, it's about $175. So our percentages are great, but a lot of people don't know the base you build from. And so, as you know, I think it's important for people to realize that this 3% or below it, Mr. Chairman, is $100 for somebody at a community college and $175 for somebody at one of our four-year schools, just so that the actual dollar amount's there that we're talking about. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, do you want me to call the roll now?
Any other discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Okay. Regent Duckett.
Aye.
Regent Freeman. Aye. Regent Griscom. Regent Roddy. Regent Russell. Regent Smith. Regent Thomas. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. Vice Chancellor Sims has provided us recommendations regarding dual enrollment rates that were omitted from our prior action. This item is also before us for action today. Does anyone have questions regarding the staff's recommendations on dual enrollment rates? If not, is there a motion to approve the dual enrollment student rates for 2016-2017? Is there a second? Second. It's been motioned and properly seconded. This item requires a roll call vote. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Regent Duckett.
Aye.
Regent Freeman.
Aye.
Regent Griscom. Regent Roddy. Regent Russell. Regent Smith. Regent Thomas. Carries unanimously.
Thank you. The final item on our agenda is the approval of the funding for the operations for the 2016-2017 fiscal year. At this time, I'll call again on Vice Chancellor Sims to go over this information for us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For those who this is their first time through this, we'll start with a little educational piece here. Estimated budget, you'll be asked to act on two budgets today. One is the estimated budget for the current year. This is the final budget for the year. It's what we'll measure our spending against at the end of the year in terms of budgeted versus actual. As you know, throughout the year, as we progress, we better understand grant activity, we better understand enrollment activity, et cetera. So this is a budget that is really based on the best information that we have as the fiscal year progresses. The other budget that you'll deal with, my clicker person, no, let me back up one. The proposed budget, she's a fine human resource professional, but I'm not sure about a clicker person. The proposed budget, I'll just speak to the proposed budget. The proposed budget is the initial operating budget for next fiscal year, the year that begins July 1. That budget, since we don't know with certainty what our enrollment for the fall is, much less the spring of next year, grant activity is unknown at this point in time, or largely unknown. Areas such as faculty splits for research are uncertain at this point in time, in many cases haven't been established. The proposed budget is our initial legal operating document, but is subject to a pretty substantial change when we review it in October. That October budget comes to you at your December meeting and is more complete in terms of understanding fall enrollment and many of these other variables. What April wants me to talk to you about today is the pie chart. Where does our funding come from and how is that funding used? We have 2 slides on that. The biggest share of our funding is generated through fees and appropriations, fees being student fees, accounting for 63% of our spending, proposed spending in the new year. That money is used for basically every function that an institution has, whether it be instruction, student services, research, et cetera, institutional support. Sales and services, the yellow piece, represents 6% of the total. Again, generally that is to support service activities. Interestingly, athletics falls into that. We also recognize investment income and other miscellaneous income in that area. Again, these funds are used for broad functional areas across the institution. The remainder of the pie chart, the next one, the other piece is restricted funds. These are where an external party, a third party, has placed restrictions on how our institutions can use those funds. Probably the best example is the federal government through financial aid. We can only use the dollars that they give to us for financial aid purposes for those purposes alone. Research grants, another, as well as it's not just federal, it can be private foundations providing funds for a restricted purpose. So we can only use those for the purposes for which they're given. Generally, you see the 4 functional areas where that falls into. Largely, it does fall into the scholarship area, the lion's share of that. And then auxiliary funds, 5% of our total budget is arrived at from auxiliaries. These have to be self-supporting under our accounting policies. So housing, bookstores, parking services, food services, those sorts of things fall into that auxiliary enterprise category. And again, dollars generated through the auxiliaries are fully loaded and are supposed to cover the full cost of operation of those enterprises. In terms of next year's budget then, the revenue picture, I'll have a series of tables here for you, and Mr. Chair, members, stop me as we go through this if you do have questions. Our revenues comparison of our estimated budget for this year to the proposed budget for next year, you see the 9% increase in state appropriations. That's made up of really 2 large chunks of money. We'll touch on this on the next slide, but a substantial piece of that, $36 million or so, is the increased outcome funding that the system received. There's another large chunk of $28 million or so that is non-recurring, that is to fund the shared services initiative for community colleges. In terms of the remainder of this chart, you can see most of the changes are relatively modest. Maintenance fee and tuition is largely driven by the rate applied to anticipated enrollment. The enrollment numbers that would back this revenue up, we would expect relatively flat enrollment. I think don't take that as we believe that will happen, but from a budgeting standpoint, institutions attempt to be conservative, so that would be a number that we would hope that we would exceed. Restricted, you can see that falls about $6.3 million. Again, largely a function of our restricted givers. In many cases, we haven't finalized those arrangements at the time that these budgets have to be delivered to the system office, which is in basically April, I believe. So this is a product of institutional thinking right up until April. If there aren't any questions on revenues, we'll go through a couple of different looks at spending. The first by functional, thank you, April. State appropriations, reconciliation there. We'll start with the number that we have for the current year of $672 million. There was non-recurring funding in the current year that will not be carried forward into next year of about $9 million. There, $36 million is our outcome funding improvement, where we received actually THEC requests plus about $6 million from the administration. Group insurance funding of $5.7 million, that is, I believe, about a 3.5–4% premium increase that's expected from the insurance program. This is to help us fund the employer's share of those insurance premiums. And then the community college shared services funding, which is non-recurring in nature, is $28.7 million. That gets you to our current state funding position of a little over $733 million, almost $734. Expenditures, again, first column is the current year, the estimated where we think we'll finish the year. And then you have a column there that shows what share that is of our E&G spending. Then the proposed budget for 16-17 and E&G spending share there. And then what the change is between those two budgets. The changes that are probably notable, and members will probably will recall this, phenomenon we see every year is with research and public service in particular. Research, primarily University of Memphis, in terms of their research activities, have not finalized the split of faculty salaries between instruction, public service, and research. That number gets washed through by the October revised budget. This should not be read as a diminishing of our research effort across the system. And then the public service is much the same way. There are public service contracts that haven't been finalized. Rather than budgeting on anticipation of those contracts, institutions have chosen to not recognize that potential expenditure. Again, other than that, I think the percentage changes are pretty much in line with what you would have seen in past years. In terms of natural classification, 73% of what we spend is on people. Our capital walks out the door every night. So you can see that a little over $1.4 billion is what our spending is on salaries and employee benefits. Travel and operating in particular, those are a little misleading in terms of the changes between the two periods of time for, again, a couple of reasons. One is as institutions develop budgets, they've been conservative with their assumptions. At the point in time that they're developing these budgets in April, it is unknown as to exactly what action the board might take with regard to maintenance fees. It's also unknown as to exactly what the state will provide in terms of state appropriations. So they tend to understate their operating expense numbers. You'll see those numbers get back more in line with the estimated budget when we see the budgets in December. I think in terms of notable, if there aren't questions, I think that again is pretty much in line with what you would have seen a year or 2 years ago. Next chart is transfer activity. These are transfers from our unrestricted, kind of our operating accounts to various reserves. The first is indebtedness, ensuring that we're transferring funds to meet debt that our institutions have entered into. Unexpended plant, reduction there, primarily accounted for by institutions initiating within the current year transfers that they do not expect to engage in last year. This would be moving money into unexpended plant, which is a fund that they can use for facilities work. Renewal and replacement, the big activity there is within the system office. The system office is the recipient of the community college shared services funding. We're shifting that money into our renewal and replacement fund, probably for the purpose that there's really not another good place to put it. It didn't seem to be appropriate to carry it in our operating budget, so we're moving it into the system office's R&R, but it will be separately accounted for there. So you can see again transfer activity between the current year and next year in terms of the shares that are moving are relatively constant. This is a chart where we attempt to show you, again, top line, what our beginning fund balance is, and that is aggregate across the system. The $218 million represents about, in rough numbers, about 9.5% of our unrestricted E&G spending. You can view that in some respects as a pseudo rainy day fund. If there are interruptions in cash flow, et cetera, it's a place for institutions to go to. For unrestricted E&G summary, you can see our revenues are a little over $2 billion, $1.9 billion of expenses, transfers of $75 million, for a total of a little over 2.056. Shows an overspending of $8.9 million. I want you to keep in mind that that transfer activity from unrestricted E&G to reserve funds of various types only takes place if we have revenues to support that. So that is not a hard number except for our retirement of indebtedness. We will not transfer dollars to renewal and replacement if those dollars aren't available in the operating account. Auxiliaries, $145 million in revenues, expenses of $143, including transfers to the small surplus there of $1.6 million. So overall, right at 2.2 billion, in revenues, expenses of right at 2.2 billion, about a $7 million negative there. Again, that negative largely driven by transfers to other restricted funds. I should say that when you compare the beginning fund balances and ending fund balances, you see a very minor move in that. We go from, as I said, about a 9.5% of our unrestricted E&G spending to about 9.3, 9.4%. Authorized positions, this chart summarizes the authorized positions across the system by sector, restricted and unrestricted. Lion's share of our positions are in faculty. Smallest shares in administration. Most of our positions, again, are in the unrestricted activity. When you look at restricted activity, that again falls largely in our universities. And the last chart is what we're asking you to consider. This is essentially a summary of the information that's been presented as part of the slide deck. It also summarizes the 33 or 34 pages of detail within your board materials. Again, what we're asking is that you act to approve the fiscal 16 estimated and fiscal 17 proposed budgets. Mr. Chair, just as wrapping up, this does require a roll call vote. I'd be remiss, again, to not thank fiscal officers from around the system, the work that they do to ensure that these budgets are submitted in a timely fashion, the work that they do with Renee Stewart and her team in terms of proofing those budgets, Pat Massey's role in helping us to pull all this together. So a lot of thanks to those folks. With that, Mr. Chair, I'll be glad to stand for questions that members might have.
Thank you, Vice Chancellor Sims. I also want to thank the entire financial team for the hard work and the members of the committee for the numerous meetings that we have had in looking at these numbers throughout the course of this year. And at this time, I would open the floor for any questions by any members of the committee.
Could you go back 2 slides? Okay, maybe 3. Maybe 4. No, that's it. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I like the trend.
Yeah, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second? This item, as Vice Chancellor Sims indicated, does in fact require a roll call vote. Madam Secretary, would you please call the roll?
Regent Duckett?
Aye.
Regent Freeman?
Aye.
Regent Griscom? Regent Roddy?
Aye.
Regent Russell? Regent Smith? Regent Thomas?
Aye.
Carries unanimously.
Thank you. This completes the agenda for today of the Business, Finance, and Operations Committee. Does any member have any other business to come before the committee? If not, without objection from a member, I declare this committee meeting to be adjourned.
Thank you, well done. We will move on to the Personnel and Compensation Committee. Regent Roddy as our chair, Regent Shockey, Regent Freeman, Regent Markham, Regent Thomas, Regent Smith, and Regent Varlin. And while we're... Oh, let's double check. You are on this committee. So don't move. Thank you. While we're reassembling here briefly, I'd love some quick input from you all. Obviously, the board spends a lot of time, particularly at the finance committee level, as you heard, working on fees and tuition, and I mean, this is a big system, big budget. One of the things we're always mindful of is the bottom line impact to our students. Any counsel you might provide us going forward? We had a good year this year, where obviously our fee increases were kept to a minimum, which is where we'd optimally be every year. Some years that just isn't possible. But any thoughts to share from a student or faculty perspective? Any advice to our board?
I can personally say that it was nice to see that the TCATs got funded fully, so that was a good thing.
Good input. Thank you, Francis. Seth, anything? No. Okay, thank you. Emma or Paul? All right, thank you very much. Regent Roddy, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I am calling the Committee of Personnel and Compensation of the Tennessee Board of Regents to order. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Regent Freeman. Regent Markham. Regent Roddy.
Aye.
Regent Shockey.
Here.
Regent Smith. Regent Thomas. Here. Regent Varlin. Here. You have a quorum.
Thank you. The first item on the agenda is the consent agenda. The committee has previously reviewed the following items: approval of President Emeritus contracts, tenure and promotion recommendations at the universities and community colleges, tenure and promotion recommendations at the Tennessee Colleges of Applied Technology, review and approval of faculty promotion increases, revisions of Tennessee Board of Regents Policy 5:02:02:10, faculty rank and promotion of TCATs. Materials presented under the consent agenda have been provided to all board members. After your review of these materials, does anyone see cause to remove a particular item from the consent agenda for further discussion and action? Are there any comments regarding the consent agenda? All right. If there is none, we will proceed with a motion to accept these items on the consent agenda. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
We've got a motion. Is there a second? Second. Thank you. We've got a motion and a second. Let's see. Please call the roll. Madam Secretary.
Regent Freeman.
Here. Aye.
Regent Markham. Regent Roddy.
Aye.
Regent Shockey.
Aye.
Regent Smith. Regent Thomas.
Aye.
Regent Varlin. Carries unanimously.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. As the second item, the committee will review and consider for approval the institutional request for new and amended compensation plans submitted by Austin Peay State University, East Tennessee State University, Middle Tennessee State University, Tennessee Tech University, and Volunteer State Community College. The committee will hear the presentation and act upon the plans as a group. Let's call upon our Vice Chair once again, Dale, and here's Dale Sims, Vice Chancellor Sims.
Thank you, Regent Roddy. I've been introduced many times, none more fancifully than that. So.
Thank you.
Members, as the chairman noted, this is a review of institutional compensation plan request. The slide shows you that we do have a guideline that says that institutions have to maintain a plan that is approved by the board. This is the way in which institutions create the structure for how their compensation to employees will work, whether it be faculty, staff, administrators, et cetera. So it's a way to ensure that there's an organized way that they go about administering salary policy. New plans come to this committee and then to the board for consideration. This is a cycle where we generally take those plans up. Plans that are submitted, the work that goes on behind that, you can see that there's a committee in the system office that reviews these plans. They have conversation with the staff at institutions, some back and forth there to make sure that we understand what's being proposed and it is within the realm of practice and is consistent with board guidance. That review committee is recommending that you favorably consider the plans that are before you. As you noted, we have 5 plans, 2 new plans, and 3 revised plans. Mr. Chair, I know y'all have got a good bit of material, but just to hit the high points, Austin Peay is essentially asking for approval of a new plan. Their last plan was approved in 2011. Essentially, this is a refashioning of their plan, moving all their salaries to, their goal is to be at market with their salaries. They are looking at a different peer group. When in setting compensation, we ask institutions to look at peer institutions, those institutions that have similar goals and strategies, et cetera. So this is essentially an updated peer plan with market salaries and then changes within the plan to conform it to those new market salaries. I think it's also a simplification of their methodology in many ways. In terms of Vol State, again, a new plan, their plan, existing plan dates back to 2008. Again, in like fashion, they are updating the groups that they use for comparators. They're using all TBR community college institutions as well as some other information regarding salaries within the Southern Region Education Board region and some other economic databases. Again, they're shooting to tie their salaries to market-based salaries with establishing ranges, et cetera, that support that. The revised plan, plans ETSU is pretty straightforward. It's mostly housekeeping, wording changes. One item that reading the description might be of concern, that there was a requirement that the president have in place a committee to guide the transition or implementation of the new plan. The new plan is now much underway, so that language is being deleted as being unnecessary at this point in time. MTSU, primarily they are refashioning their peers, moving to a uniform set of peers for various groups. And then Tennessee Tech, their plan is, I think was before us maybe a year or so ago. What they're doing is coming back and trying to fill it out in terms of being clear about objectives and some of the administrative provisions of it. They're also building in flexibility to administer, if times permit, to administer a merit-based plan. Mr. Chair, with that explanation, I'll be glad to volunteer April Preston up for any questions you may have. Otherwise, this is before you for action, and I believe it requires a voice vote.
Thank you so much, Vice Chancellor Sims and April Preston. We want to thank you both for the excellent job you've done. You all have heard the recommendations of the new institutional compensation plan submitted by Austin Peay State University, East Tennessee State University, Middle Tennessee, Tennessee Tech, and volunteer state community colleges. Pending any questions from the board, the committee, are there any questions? And we'll open the board to any questions, and if there are no questions, is there a motion to approve the new and amended compensation plans that have been presented this afternoon?
So moved.
Thank you. We've got a motion and a second, and appreciate those. This item requires a roll call vote, and therefore we'll ask Madam Secretary to please call the roll.
Regent Freeman.
Yes.
Regent Markham.
Oh, yes.
Regent Roddy,
Aye.
Regent Shockey,
Aye.
Regent Smith, Regent Thomas,
Aye.
Regent Barlin. Motion carries unanimously.
And Madam Secretary, we want to thank you for the excellent job you've done for our committee and the others this afternoon. You've been very busy. As a third and final item, the committee will review and consider for approval the proposed system compensation strategies. And we'll once again call upon, and here's our Vice Chancellor, Dale Sims.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. You're going to embarrass me if you're not careful.
Don't want to do that.
The background on this, you'll recall that each year at this time, we come forward with guidance to institutions as to compensation requests that they will make of the board at your September meeting. Historically, we've either had state funding that was committed to salary increases or we haven't. This is a year in which we have state funding. We have $36 million state has provided us in terms of an operating improvement. Historically, we received that and some other allocations specifically for salaries, whether it be cost of living or otherwise. In this year's state budget, we were given the $36 million and said we could spend that money for program improvements, for other needs, or for compensation, however the board directed. So in making the recommendation to the General Assembly, the governor gave a great deal of flexibility to the board. Legislature agreed with that, so that's what is before you today. Is we have funding in terms of both state funding and the action. Should the board tomorrow adopt the recommendation of the Finance Committee, there's additional funding that could be used for compensation. What we'll have before you is a recommendation as to the instruction that we would give to institutions about the parameters for use of that money. The parameters in this year, what we're recommending to you are much broader than what we might have seen a few years ago. In communication, in conversation with institutional leaders, the needs across institutions vary considerably. We have some institutions where the highest use might be adding faculty lines. We have others where funding a compensation plan would be important. We have others where funding of their comp plan generally for all employees would be a priority, and we have some where a COLA might be the most important. So what you have before you is essentially a recommendation that institutions, that we rely on the institutional leadership to look through these options and make recommendations to this committee and through this committee to the board about how best to use the resources that they have available to accomplish the goals that have been outlined for them through Complete College and Drive to 55. So we will be, we'll also allow them, as April was just reminding me, institutions can also use local funds to supplement this within their recommendations to you. So essentially, we're leaving it to institutional leadership to make judgments within a broad range of things, including asking that portions of this funding could be used to authorize new positions. We're not directing that 100% of this has to be used for any given purpose. Institutions are free to allocate these dollars for the various purposes, again, to maximize their benefit for their particular institution. Procedurally, what we would ask institutions to do is submit those requests to the system office by mid-August. We would then work through those and have conversation to make sure we understood what was being proposed. They would then be submitted to this committee at your September committee meeting, and then assuming this committee acted favorably, it would go to the full board at September. With that explanation, Mr. Chairman, I'll be glad to try to answer questions members might have. This is, again, I think, compared to the instructions or guidance given in the past several years, this is probably the broadest instruction that we would have given institutions, the greatest flexibility.
Thank you so much, Vice Chancellor Sims. Our committee's heard the report. Pending any questions regarding the compensation strategies, is there a motion? Are there any questions, comments, or is there a motion to approve the compensation strategies that have been presented? We have a motion and a second to approve the compensation strategies. This too requires a roll call, and we'll call once again on our secretary.
Regent Freeman.
Approved.
Regent Markham. Regent Roddy.
Aye.
Regent Shockey.
Aye.
Regent Smith. Regent Thomas. Regent Varlin. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you very much. This concludes our agenda for the Committee on Personnel and Compensation. Do we have a motion to adjourn and a second? We've got a motion and a second, and want to thank the committee for your input and on this report, which we'll recommend tomorrow to the board. And our committee stands adjourned. And we'll turn it right back to our chair.
I thank you, Mr. Chairman, very much. And we all know that Dale should never pick on April Preston. So she is too valuable to us, and we're glad you're here. At this time, Regent Thomas is our chair. We'll move to the Academic Policies and Programs and Student Life Committee, which means we also need Regents Prescott, Varlin, Duckett, Farwell, and Russell.
I can just stay here or move?
Do you want to come over here, or you want to stay there? Why don't you just,
I don't
you can stay
care.
there? Okay.
I'll sit right here if that's, or wherever you say. Oh, I don't think I'm on that one, am I? Oh, I'm on that one too.
I'd like to call this meeting of the Committee on Academic Policies and Programs and Student Life to order. Madam Secretary, would you call the roll?
Here.
Regent Prescott.
Here.
Regent Russell.
Here.
Regent Thomas.
Here.
Regent Varlin. Regent Farwell.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. We have only one item on the agenda for our committee this afternoon. That's the approval of the MTSU Joey A. Jacobs Chair of Excellence in Accounting. I'd like to call on Associate Vice Chancellor Greg Sedgwick for the presentation.
Thank you, Chairman. At no expense savored, we have an excellent flipper of our charts today. Is Ginger Hauser, and also we have spent many, many hours for this particular chart to be presented to you. So if we would take a look at that next slide. You have that up for me? There it is. Awesome. So there we go.
A little humor here.
Very little, sir, but I try my best. In June of 2013, this committee had a meeting and approved by voice vote, the establishment of the Joey A. Jacobs Chair of Excellence in Accountancy. Mr. Jacobs, through a very generous contribution to the university, is positioned MTSU to provide a national and an international presence in the field of accounting through its support of the university degree programs in accountants, and presence in the field of accounting through its support of the university's degree programs in accounting, students pursuing careers in accounting, research, and creative activity and service. As part of the match, the original approval outlined the request of $1 million from the state appropriations to support the institutional match of $2.5 million. with projected income of $140,000 to support the total expenses. As a part of the 2016-2000 budget, Governor Haslam also included a $1.5 million from the general government funding to supplement the existing Jacobs Chair of Excellence funds. And this would give adequate support to the future chair holder. It brings to a total, this Chair of Excellence, to $5 million. The request for the action is for will allow the regents to, let me try that again. This request for actions of the regents will allow the board to seek approval of the Tennessee Higher Education Commission for the House and Senate Education Subcommittees to enact the release of funds. I do believe, Mr. Chair, this is a required voice vote.
Thank you, Associate Vice Chancellor Cedric. I'd like to compliment the governor for including this additional $1.5 million in his budget, which will increase the endowment of this chair to $5 million, which is indeed a substantial endowed chair, and we are in his. We honor him, the governor. I'll entertain a motion to allow to seek the approval of the Tennessee Higher Education Commission to take this forward in the legislature. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion's been made and seconded. This does require a voice vote. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. That concludes the business of the committee, and we are now adjourned.
Well done. Thank you, sir. Thank you. And good work to MTSU, and our thanks again to the governor and to Joey Jacobs for his extraordinary philanthropy to our great university. We will now move to the External Affairs Committee meeting with Regent Markham as our chair, joined by Regents Roddy, Griscom, Shockey, Templeton, Apple, and Regent Prescott. So we'll reset here quickly.
Detecting the presence of a quorum, I am calling the Committee on External Affairs of the Tennessee Board of Regents to order. Madam Secretary, please call the roll. Regent Apple. Here. Regent Griscom. Regent Markham. Here. Regent Prescott. Here. Regent Shockey. Regent Smith. Do we have a quorum? Well, no. We need one more of them to come back in the room. Smith?
I think I called it on.
Doctor? Wait a minute. We do have a quorum, because we only have 7 voting members, so we have 8 members, but Regent Deaton can't vote, so you have a quorum of voting members.
Okay, all right.
Thanks for joining us,
Yes, there we go.
Regent Smith.
Regent Griscom is joining as well.
So I think-
Okay. And
Okay.
Grant, okay.
And there's Tom. Oh, excellent.
We have a quorum.
Full
Very
house.
good. Full house. All right. As the first item on the agenda, the committee will review and consider for approval the new policy on firearms and other weapons. I'm going to call on the General Counsel, Mary Moody. You've heard the report by our General Counsel, to explain this policy to us.
This is also my only slide. Greg beat me to it, but we're tied at 1 slide apiece.
Okay.
You all have been provided with the copy of the policy. We discussed it at the committee chairs meeting, and I've had an opportunity to discuss it with each one of you individually. If you don't have any questions about the policy, just generally, the policy implements the new law passed by the General Assembly that allows full-time faculty and staff members who have a valid Tennessee carry permit to carry on the campus at which they are employed if they register with law enforcement on the local law enforcement or campus law enforcement, whichever has jurisdiction over the campus. And the policy goes into detail about when and where they can carry and restrictions on carrying. It also addresses the Guns and Trunks law, which allows students and faculty and staff who have valid carry permits to store their firearm in their vehicle in compliance with the state law. But it maintains the general prohibition on firearms and weapons on our campus. These things are all exceptions to the general prohibition. So going forward, it is still illegal to carry weapons or other firearms on our campus unless you fall within one of these narrow exceptions to the law.
All right. You've heard the report by our General Counsel, Mary Moody. Pending any questions?
Fran, can I?
Yes, any comments?
Mary, we've seen what the University of Tennessee put out. Have you had a chance to look at their policy compared to ours? Are we fairly similar in approach?
As we prepared our policy, I worked with UT along those lines as we were both preparing our policy. So yes, our policy and UT's policy are very similar. There are some minor differences, nothing substantive. I will point out that our policy contains a provision that provides that universities in the TBR system will adopt their own policies consistent with applicable state and federal laws, and that those policies have to be in place by July 1, 2016, when the law takes effect. We did it that way in consideration of the Focus Act and the fact that universities have unique campuses that will have areas where people can and can't carry that are different from everything else. So our policy, the policy you're adopting here today, applies primarily to community colleges and TCATs.
Very good. Regent Prescott?
Thank you, Regent Markham. I'd just like to, on this particular policy, really thank our staff and thank Mary Moody. As a Board of Regents, we opposed in increasing the ability for individuals to have guns on campus. And I think that, and we did it with a considerable amount of expertise coming to us. And so I think that our staff did really a wonderful job during this legislative session to try to massage this, to make changes, to put in limits that would be at least acceptable to our presidents and the individuals on our campuses. So kudos to them for the work that they did, and then also to Mary for trying to put this, and her staff, and trying to put this into just real clear policy. And beyond that, I hope that we will continue to discuss as a board the kinds of things that we need to do, given these changes, to support and assist our campuses in training, in communication, and those kinds of things, because this is a very serious policy.
Well said, Regent. Thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you to Mary, her staff, the committees, the many hands that have acted quickly and swiftly to provide the proper policies for this new legislation that was inevitable, and we appreciate all the hard work, and we will continue to stay on top of this. Thank you very much.
And I guess I should have said our request is that you approve the policy. We recommend approval of the
Recommend
policy.
approval, okay. Any other comments, Regent? Roddy?
I'd just like to ask you,
Phone, microphone?
where our policy states, new policy on firearms, other weapons, just a question, are there certain military weapons, for example, that are not permissible on the campus, such as was used in Orlando?
The new law only allows handguns.
Oh, thank you.
You have to have a valid handgun carry permit, and you are only permitted to carry a handgun, which is defined by law as a gun that has a barrel that's 12 inches or less in length, that's designed or adapted to be fired with one hand.
Thank you.
And Mary, would you go ahead and elaborate where and the gun must be at all times?
The statute requires that the person carry it concealed, which means not visible to ordinary observation. So a person electing to carry under this policy and the law has to carry it either concealed on their person, which would mean in a holster or some other thing that holds it, under a jacket, not visible to ordinary observation. If they choose to carry it in a bag, like a handbag or a messenger bag or a briefcase, it has to be within an arm's reach of them at all times, because they have to carry it. And so if they choose to carry, if you're a woman and you choose to carry in a handbag, then you have to keep that handbag within an arm's reach of you at all times. No one can leave the gun in their desk, leave the gun in a locker, walk off and leave it anywhere. They have to carry it at all times.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Yeah, Chancellor?
Regent Prescott, thank you for your kind words about Mary and the staff who worked on this. And the discussion that we have had with our presidents and with our directors and with the board indicates the complexity of what we're doing. So I too want to express my appreciation to Mary and others, and just add to the members of the committee that we will be doing training sessions and informative sessions and trying to stand up as much communication as we can around the frequently asked questions on this topic, because we want to do our best in implementing the law, but there are a number, as you can guess, of circumstances that people will have questions about. And we've had one of those sessions at Volunteer State Community College last week, and that helped us to kind of understand some questions that are arising from our own faculty and staff.
The continuing education process will be very important as we go forward.
Well, as Chancellor Gregory said, we conducted a town hall for faculty and staff who wished to attend at Vol State last week, and had a pretty good turnout at the meeting and got some really thoughtful questions. So that we'll be using those as a basis as we go on to put some frequently asked questions on the TBR website for people to see.
Francis, I believe you had a question?
I have a comment. Thank you for the opportunity. I would be irresponsible if I wouldn't comment in the name of the faculty subcouncil, because we have met about this issue before. And my faculty here at Northeast State and the faculty subcouncil, the TBR meetings we've had, they understand that this law was imminent, and we really appreciate you voting against it. And we understand it is coming, but we would greatly appreciate your support in not allowing anything else to come to campus. We understand that Representative Holt wants to bring students to bring their guns to campus, and we would greatly appreciate all the work you can do to not allow that.
We appreciate your comments. Mr. Manning?
I both have a question and comment. First, I would like to kind of go along with what Francis has said here, in that any extension of this law later on pertaining to students, I would also advise voting against that if that's all, at all possible. My question is there any type of restriction on ammunition, specifically pertaining to the amount of ammunition one person has to, or is allowed to carry?
No, that's not addressed in the statute. It says that they're permitted to carry a handgun, and it can't be visible to ordinary observation. So to the extent it would require an extended clip that couldn't be easily concealed, that would be a limitation on it. But if you're carrying it in a bag or a briefcase, that wouldn't be obvious. And so that was an issue that really wasn't addressed. I actually do not remember any discussion in any of the committee meetings regarding the ammunition, and I think people make the mistaken assumption that a handgun is limited in the amount that it can shoot, and we all know that that's not the case.
So if there's just any other things that can be added on or can be asked to advance to the board about that, I would recommend please being able to do so. Thank you.
Very thoughtful. We'll take your comments under advisement and move forward with them. Thank you. Anyone else? Thank you. If not, is there a motion to approve the new policy on firearms and other weapons? So moved. Moved by Regent Prescott. Do I have a second? Second by Regent Mary Lou Apple. We need a roll call vote. Madam Secretary.
Does it say roll call? I think a voice vote will.
Oh, a voice vote's okay?
For a policy, yes.
For policy. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And the second item on the agenda, the committee will review and consider for approval the new system policy on social media. I'd like to call the Communications Director, Monica Grippins-Watts.
Thank you. Good afternoon, and thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. I'm pleased to outline two new policies that we're presenting and we're requesting your approval today. Both policies apply to the system office only. They do not apply to the institutions for several reasons. First, the institutions are unique. They have individual characteristics that aren't necessarily, that vary from college to college. And one general policy may not fit every institution. Many either have policies in place already about this, or they have guidelines. And we have made it clear to them that if they don't have policies and guidelines in place already, they're welcome to either adapt this one or make changes to help it fit with their institution. The objectives of the policy are to provide guidance in how to use social media and email tools. In doing so, it helps avoid potential risks. I want to point out that we have not had any problems that instituted our interest in developing this policy. It's something that we should have done a while back, but we haven't had any problems, but this is just to avoid any problems that might possibly occur in the future. And it also helps us maintain consistent branding and messaging across our system office. You have the social media policy before you, and to briefly summarize, it basically identifies who can create social media accounts on behalf of the TBR system office and who should have administrator authorization to maintain and edit those accounts as needed. It also outlines the appropriate use of personal social media accounts by employees, and it provides guidance on how to avoid conflicts concerning representation of personal opinions on those accounts. I'd be happy to answer any questions related to the social media policy.
You've heard the report by Communications Director Griffin Watts. Pending any questions? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
So, moved by Regent Roddy. Do I have a second? Second by Regent Prescott. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. The third item on our agenda, the committee will hear from Director Griffin Watts to discuss the new system policy on broadcast emails.
Thank you. And again, for this policy, again, it wasn't because we're not asking you to approve it because there was a problem, it's just to help avoid risk. It outlines who provides authorization for sending broadcast emails to all of the employees at once using our distribution list through our email network at the system office. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those as well.
We have a motion to,
I'll second it.
and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Ms. Monica Griffin Watts, did I say all approved? Okay. While I have you before me, I want to thank you for all you've done for the Tennessee Board of Regents.
Thank you.
I understand you might be departing tomorrow.
Yes.
Thank you. We can never thank you enough for all you have done for the Tennessee Board of Regents. And I would just like for this board to give you a round of applause at this moment. While I have you, you've done so much for me and for my committee and all the time that I've worked with you. It's been a pleasure and a joy and an honor. I thank you for all you've done.
Thank you so much. And if I could say, the honor has been distinctly mine, and it's been such a pleasure to work with all of you and everybody at all of our institutions, and I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm going to introduce the last item on the agenda too, if you don't mind.
Okay, very good. I thought somebody else was going to do it, so I wasn't going to let you get away.
I'll introduce Matthew too. Thank you.
Okay.
So I'm excited to introduce the next item. After more than a year's worth of work, we're pleased to announce the planned rollout of a new network of websites for our Tennessee Colleges of Applied Technology. I describe it as a network of sites because of the way it was created. It allows us to provide and maintain a good portion of the content on the sites at the system office that we can then push down to each of the individual sites. Each institution also can upload its own unique program offerings, student information, campus news, events, calendars, and more. Being able to manage the content that should remain consistent across all of the TCATs in the system office helps avoid misinformation, allows for timely updates, and helps us maintain consistent branding and messaging, especially with the implementation of the new name. It's also quick and easy to do with one update now. We can make the update, push it down to all of the websites instead of asking 27 different institutions to update their websites. You'll be pleased to know that because this network of websites was created internally, they were created in-house by Matthew Gann, we saved production costs that could easily have ranged in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. So if I may, Madam Chair, I'd like to ask Matthew Gann, TBR's Associate Director of Web Services and Digital Strategy, to come to the podium and tell you about his work and the coordination with all of the TCATs on this project.
Thank you very much. Matthew?
Thank you, Monica. We're just going to run through this really quick, like the process and everything that we did to get this going, and give you just a small sample of what the websites look like and an idea of launch times and dates. So we started off with about 6 months of advisory group meetings, research, architecture design, and campus data alignment, trying to get every campus and what they display for each program, what they display for admissions information, what they display for community information, and try to get that aligned so we can actually have a good site architecture to start from. We found that about 50 to 70% of the content is actually shared between all TCATs. It does not change between campuses. So we're going to manage that from a central data website that's actually pushed down to each individual campus. So the TCAT system office can manage that data, and as soon as they make an update, it's pushed to all 27 campuses. I skipped one part, but same thing works with some of the features. If we build a new feature set for an individual campus, we can actually push that to all campuses simultaneously without actually going in and having to do updates per campus site. And we're also managing this by our TBR Web Services Distributed Incident Management System, which powers our policies website, powers the TBR web structure, and powers a bunch of other websites on the TBR network. Go ahead. Go ahead with all of them, if you don't mind. The advantages of this, like Monica mentioned, is allows a consistent brand management. And through this, especially at the advisory groups and talking to campuses, we really focused on potential students and a student-focused design and content. And this puts us, I think, with looking at all the other technical colleges in the country, up at the very top as far as designing content. I was showing some people during the demos earlier today. It's like, we wish our website actually was this consistent and easy to navigate. So I'm hoping for potential students and parents, when they go to this website and the network of websites, that they can find what they're looking for easily and apply quickly. Because of the way we structured the data at the system level and the way the websites were built, I think we're going to have tremendous campus personnel time savings, because I do know we are very lean on our TCAT campuses. So this would allow them, instead of worrying about all the data that is shared between campuses, that, again, the system office can update that and it's pushed down. Now, the things that are individual per campus, like program information, student events, job fairs, everything like that, the campus can still maintain that data and push it on their own website without us being involved with it. They have that access. Again, keeping this in-house with some support, we have tremendous cost savings, and most importantly, a tremendous opportunity to grow. This is just the beginning of a web launch. We can add all sorts of features, and again, very quickly, if there's example, student job opportunities. TCAT Knoxville and TCAT Shelbyville ask consistently, can we add student job opportunities instead of just opportunities for our campus? And so that was something, I did it in a day and pushed it out to all campuses within a few clicks of a button, versus the current platform, which is have to do it 27 individual times. It's not efficient. So we're going to give you just a small pre-recorded video of what the website looks like. And this is a desktop version. It is fully mobile compatible as well. So this is the beginning of it. It starts off, we actually have a video highlighting the individual programs at that particular campus. There's action items that we start with quickly: how to apply financial aid, schedule a visit. Based on the programs that they put in, it generates that list of programs, so they can click on one of those programs if need be. One of the main items that campuses really want is to highlight where they were location-wise. So on that map, you can click on an individual location and click on programs offered, and it'll show you the programs offered at that individual location. And inside of the program information, we have structured it very quickly about information about the program, how long it takes to do it, what your time commitment is, if the classes are offered day and night time, the big apply now. We also have program options. We pull salary and job information and job opening data from the Department of Labor. So each campus doesn't have to actually maintain that. It pulls it automatically from the Department of Labor. You could also navigate quickly to other programs on that page. Again, this is on the admissions page. It shows the general system-wide application instructions. It also displays, based on what they put in the program data, the program pages, individual program-specific admissions requirements, and that's built automatically for the campus. They don't have to manage that. Really, what they put on the program page displays there. The other thing we've built in here is a campus status. Right now, this is campus status normal. The campuses have the ability quickly to go in and change it to lockdown if they need to, change it to weather-related closings, change it to anything they really feel like they need to. And at some point, we'll integrate that in with the campus alert systems that the campuses are looking right now. And also, it's very easy to find sister campuses. So this is TCAT Knoxville currently. If we want to go, if somebody wants to, like, this is not the program, this is not the campus for me, it's very easy to find all other campus websites. So that's initial preview. We're planning on, feature set wise, we're finished for the moment. Campuses are finishing up adding their content right now, and we're going to be launching websites probably as soon as next week. So they have the ability within the next 35 days to kind of pick a time when they're ready for content, and then we'll just hit the button and go live. So any questions?
Questions? Comments? Matthew, this is so exciting. You have accomplished so many of our goals for the system, and you've offered uniqueness for the TCATs, and you've saved money. So we're all very proud of you. I think you're to be commended.
Thank
very,
you.
Very good
And
work.
also, I would be remiss not to thank Monica Greppen-Watts
Absolutely.
for 8 years of wonderful, I guess, bossship and the support that she's giving us, the leadership that she has had with not only Tennessee Tech, but the Board of Regents. Some of the things that we've accomplished, it's mainly because of Monica, so I'd like to, again, say thank you. You've been amazing.
Well, she's leaving a wonderful legacy,
Yeah,
and,
so-
and she's leaving you behind, too.
Yeah.
That's great.
So,
Congratulations.
thank you, guys.
This item is for information purposes only and doesn't require any committee action. So this concludes the agenda for our Committee on External Affairs. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Second? Madam Chair, that concludes our committee.
Well done.
Adjourned.
Thank you, thank you. Okay. We will reassemble here for the Committee on Workforce Development, our final meeting of the afternoon. Regent Varlin is our chair, with Regent Apple, Griscom, Markham, Smith, and Farwell. And I hope I read the right list this time, so we should be okay. And again, to Matthew, great piece of work. I'm still not speaking to Monica on her departure. It's a very painful thing. Paul, as we reassemble you and Emma, what you just, the snippet you just saw on the TCAT, what reactions?
I'm just awed.
Aw.
I think it's lovely, and the ability for students to really see what TCAT offers is absolutely lovely, and the ability to apply online, I just think that that adds so much value to our school.
Excellent, thank you. Paul, any reactions?
Yeah, it's very informative. As far as the learning of NIDA, if we could do that online, that would be appreciative too, because I could spend time at home doing that on my personal computer. And I don't know if that's going to be offered or not, but it would be nice.
Would you repeat that, learning what?
NIDA, that's what I'm learning as far as my electronics.
Thank you.
Okay,
So
good.
that's all I have to say.
Thank you both for your comments.
Thank
Stand
you.
by for August when we go live, so well done.
Sounds good.
Well done. All right, our Workforce Development Committee, are you ready to go? Who are we missing? Yeah, she's coming right back. Yeah, I think we're okay.
Okay, I want to welcome everyone to the Workforce Development Committee.
Your mic's not on, but I will
Well,
call the roll.
that's probably good. Madam Secretary, would you please call the roll?
Regent Apple.
Here.
Regent Griscom. Regent Markham. Regent Prescott.
Here.
Regent Smith. Regent Varlin.
Here.
And Regent Farwell.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. The agenda today is going to include for some proposed program terminations, modifications, and new technical program implementations from our TCATs, an update on TCAT and community college articulation and program alignment, an update on the labor education alignment, which is the LEAP grant program, and finally, AT&T Aspire Scholarship Award. First, I'd like to call on Chancellor James King to present the proposed program terminations, modifications, and new technical programs for the TCATs. First, I'd like to ask him if he would briefly give us an update on what's going on with Skills USA in Louisville, Kentucky right now.
I left Louisville this morning. We have over 200 faculty and students there participating in what I view as the Skill Olympics for this country, and it's been already an exciting period. We have 92 students competing for gold, silver, bronze medals, and we expect to bring home several. We're already hearing good rumors right now about the way the students are doing. But there's already been several really exciting moments. We have with us our state's outstanding student, which you'll hear from tomorrow, Sandra Timberlake. She's already been a star at the conference. The national magazine's already been taking pictures of her and going to highlight her in the next edition already. So she's already been the star of the conference. We had a great honor. This conference is sort of unique. The World Skills Board of Directors is meeting during our national conference. So we've got the board members from 15 countries throughout the world meeting. And David Huey, he's from Australia. He's their executive director. During his presentation to the corporate board members, that includes representatives from all 50 states, he called out the TCAT system as a world model. So I thought that was quite impressive. And I didn't have to pay him that much to do that either. So, but that was nice. And then Shelley and I had the opportunity yesterday morning to meet with a delegation from Louisiana to find out how we're doing what we're doing. They want to emulate that. And their completion rates are down, and they've asked us to come to their board meeting in October to highlight what we're doing in Tennessee. So a lot of good things are going on across the state. But this conference is really going well, Regent Varlin. I'm excited about reporting to you a lot of gold medals and a lot of champions at the end of the day tomorrow night. 4 or 5 of us that drove down this morning, we're heading back tomorrow right after the board meeting to witness the award ceremony. So it's going to be a long couple of days for us. But I would like to quickly go through the program proposals that we have. We have no terminations and a couple of modifications. As you know, our primary mission in the TCAT system is workforce development. You know, our campuses focus every day on that mission. So this mission requires us to be in constant contact and communication with the industry in our area to move quickly to address their needs. We have 6 program proposals presented to you today. These proposals are as follows. 1, implementation of a marketing, merchandising, and parts operation program at TCAT Crossville. Implementation of a hybrid administrative office technology program at Morristown to be located on the Sevier County campus. Implementation of a medical assistant patient care technician program at McMinnville. Implementation of an adult welding technology program at Livingston to be located on the White County High School campus, a great partnership there with White County. Implementation of an adult certified nursing assistant program also to be located at the White County campus, White County High School through TCAT Livingston. Implementation of an adult industrial maintenance and mechatronics at Livingston to be located also on the White County campus. So the White County High School campus is almost going to become an extension of Livingston at no cost and things like that. It's always a good thing. I also would like to make the following correction to one of the academic action items listed in your materials. The statewide machine tool technology program hour change should have said the hours are being reduced from 2160 to 1728. I think it has in your listing be reduced from 1728 to 2160. So the information was transposed there. Chairman Varlin, these program proposals allow the Tennessee Colleges of Applied Technology to be more responsive to the needs of students, businesses, and industries. They have been reviewed carefully by our Assistant Vice Chancellor Carol Pereira and myself, and we request the board's approval. Thank you.
Motion to accept these proposals.
So moved.
All right, thank you. Second? Second, all right. Are there any more questions or comments about this? Any of the programs? All right, I'm going to call for a vote. Is this voice vote? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any disapproval, say nay. All right, the vote passes. Thank you very much. Next, I'm going to call on our Vice Chancellor Warren Nichols to give the update on the TCAT and Community College Articulation and Program Alignment. Is Warren around?
Here he comes.
Here he comes, yay! All right, this is for information only, there's no action required.
That is correct, Madam Chair. Just wanted to give you an update. At the last board meeting, we spoke about issues regarding TCATs and community colleges with trying to identify better ways of communicating between the two institutions. Also at the board retreat, there was some conversation along those lines as well. So what has happened since then is on May 20th of 2016, Vice Chancellor James King and I sent out a joint memo to our TCATs and our community colleges, and that memo is in your board material. The purpose of the memo is to improve communication between the TCATs and the community colleges and provide opportunities for articulation and the coordination of the programs. Effective in May, institutions will notify all community colleges and TCATs when a new program is proposed or an existing program is to be delivered at a new location. If any of the institutions have questions or concerns from any community college or TCAT within their service area, the proposing institution must be informed within 10 working days of notification. The intent behind this is to open additional channels of communication so that we can better understand what programs are being offered throughout the state. Dr. Apple, Regent Apple, knows this very well, that from time to time in the past, our colleges, our TCATs, our community colleges have brought forth new programs. And the first time we heard about that was at a board meeting when it came up for a vote. Now it wasn't even one that we were objecting to. It's like, boy, I wish I had known about that because we could have done something too. So this really gives us an opportunity for both the TCATs and the community colleges to have a better understanding as a system of who we are, what are we doing, how can we cooperate and become even more effective partners. So that's what this is. So just wanted to give you an update of the progress that our TCATs and our community colleges are doing to working towards a better alignment and a better partnership.
I want to just stop you right here, Vice Chancellor, and say, first of all, thank you. I think this is a very important agreement and alignment that we're doing so that communication happens among and to and with the right people, not in anywhere behind the scenes or accidentally or publicly, any of those things. So do any regents have any questions about this or comments?
I don't have a question, but I'd like to pile on to that. I think this is a great move.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, if
And
you
again,
would.
thank you for those remarks, but I just want to reemphasize this was a joint effort between the TCATs and the community colleges. So, but we're both very happy with where we're headed with this. So.
Thank you. If you want to
Danny?
continue, yes?
Can I make one point?
Yes. Oh, there
I
you
would,
are.
hi there. I would hope, as we talked earlier in some of our other meetings, that the learning that Warren and James get out of this discussion is shared with all of us as regents, because it clearly will help us better understand some of the changes that are coming, some of the ways that we look at a better focus on community colleges and TCATs as our roles are being redefined. So I would hope that you will find opportunities to give us depth of what you're all talking about, not just the 30,000 foot, because I think it will help us as we're thinking through these issues. If you all have already talked about them, I, for one, would love to hear and see some of those conversations that are occurring.
We would be happy to do that, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, Barbara?
Thank
Prescott,
you, Regent
sorry.
Barlin. And I too want to thank both vice chancellors really for coming together and discussing this. This is going to be our focus. This is what we are from this point forward as we make this change in looking at how we really make the best of these two deliveries, whether it be the applied colleges, applied technology, or the community college. So I hope, this is a great start, particularly on program alignment, and I hope that continued conversations move around articulation and finding ways that our students can, if they finish one program, maybe later they want to do more. And so I think this is a beginning that hopefully can go in many directions. And I know in many cases there's great communication and collaboration among the community colleges and TCATs that are close, and we just want to continue that and won't let up on it. So thank you very much for this good start.
This is one case where surprises aren't good, and just everybody needs to keep that in mind.
That is
So,
correct. Yes, ma'am.
thank you. If that's all in
Yes,
terms
ma'am.
of information, I'm going to ask you to proceed with the next agenda item, the update on the LEAP grants. And
Yes,
I
ma'am.
think you and Vice Chancellor James King are going to share some of this.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. Just as a brief overview for those of you that are not as familiar with the LEAP program, in 2013, Senate Majority Leader Mark Norris from Collierville and House Majority Leader Gerald McCormick from Chattanooga sought to address the growing mismatch between workforce needs and the supply of qualified workers in Tennessee by passing Public Chapter 338, which established the Labor Education Alignment Program, which is we refer to as LEAP. In October of 2014, they set aside $10 million to communities through a grant competition. In total, 27 proposals were submitted for review, and 12 projects were selected to receive the LEAP grants, totaling $10 million. The successful grant proposals targeted skills gaps in sectors with the largest skill deficits and workforce needs, namely in areas of advanced manufacturing, mechatronics, information technology, and career readiness. I believe Dr. Apple was one of the first recipients for mechatronics for the LEAP grant as well. LEAP's primary goal was to close the skills gaps by ensuring that students enrolled in courses provided by the TCATs and community colleges would gain the necessary skills to meet the requirements of high-skill and high-technology jobs. So with that, I'm going to speak for just a moment about the community colleges in 2014 that were successful in receiving a LEAP grant. One of the things that, and you'll hear Vice Chancellor King talk more in a moment about how many people were involved and those type of things. But the other thing that's important to understand is that these were community projects. Everyone had to have partners, and there was a lot of opportunity for the TCATs and the community colleges to share and partner with, along with chambers of commerce and governmental and community K through 12 operations. So these were truly collaborative partnerships. But just to give you a quick review, and I'm not going to go through all of these unless you just want me to, but you can see that Columbia, Jackson, Dyersburg, Nashville State, each has had a successful program. LEAP Update, Nashville State, Southwest, Roane, and Walters. And again, you can see that these were primarily in mechatronics, manufacturing, IT, health-related type of joint partnerships. And again, unless you have more, I will leave it at that. We can certainly provide you with much more. You can also read about all of these programs from the THEC website that has all of these listed about the efforts and all of the partners that were involved in these LEAP grants. But with that, I will turn it over to. Oh, I'm sorry, I have more. And those 2014 LEAP grants for the community colleges equaled up to about $6.5 million for community partnerships and grants. Okay, and I'll turn it over to James.
You know, this has really been, as Warren said, an exciting opportunity because it gave all of our campuses a chance to work with community partners. You had to have so many counties involved. You have to have so many partners involved, so it was not an individual campus. And I want to take a few minutes to highlight some of the really good things that have happened during this past year. And then I think we're going to briefly discuss for LEAP Grant 2, and I think you'll see why so many of us are jumping on LEAP Grant 2, because we've had so much success in LEAP Grant 1. You know, for example, let's go with first with Leap to Success. Each one had a catchy name, you know, and they tied Leap into it, so some cute names. It was a project led by Jackson State Community College, and it was a partnership with TCAT Crump, Jackson, McKenzie, Paris, and Whiteville. This program developed career pathways from educational programs to occupation in production, maintenance, repair, construction in 12 different counties. And so the collaboration aided the TCATs in increased dual enrollments as well as Jackson State. They served well over 300 students the first year and also provided equipment to not only to the campuses but also in many of the high schools as well. The LEAP grant called CT Pathway to Advanced Manufacturing with Dyersburg State, TCAT Covington, and it was also with Jackson, McKenzie, New Bern, Paris, and Ripley. The goal was to reinforce pathways to advanced manufacturing careers for students across an 11-county area. Once again, we saw a huge increase in dual enrollments in advanced manufacturing programs, plus the grant did allow students to receive industrial credentials while going to high school. There were also partners with Roane State and Harriman, and then partners with TCAT Memphis and Southwest. One of the grants that I thought has really gotten a lot of attention is the TCAT Marshtown project with Walter State in strengthening the Lakeway links, providing demand-driven workforce supply chain. The cornerstone of this initiative was a work ethic diploma, which was born from conversations with local partners. The ethic diploma standards include attendance, tardiness, discipline, GPA, drug-free, and CTE coursework and completion. What was interesting about this, to this date, 26 companies have signed a letter of support for this workforce ethic diploma. And part of the cornerstone of that was they have guaranteed interviews for the students that meet all these goals. They're not guaranteeing the actual job, but a chance to interview in their company if they have completed this. This grant also provided about $700,000 in industrial maintenance equipment for the high schools. And now this grant is going to be highlighted, Chancellor Gregory, in the governor's next workforce subcouncil. It's one of those that they're highlighting in that because you have 26 industries getting involved in that. The TCAT Athens and Cleveland State have also produced a grant that's going to increase dual enrollment opportunities at both TCAT Athens and Cleveland State. Hohenwald and Pulaski worked on a grant that was over $970,000. This grant covered a 7-county area focused on filling the workforce pipeline in manufacturing pathways, targeting high school CTE programs. I think one common theme of most of these grants is a lot of the equipment didn't go to us. It went into high schools so that you can feed into our campuses later, because many of the high schools struggle with keeping up-to-date equipment. So I think you applaud most of our campuses. They didn't just think of themselves. They thought the pipeline and the feeder to many of our campuses should be from the high school sector. If we can have the high schools, and that increases dual enrollment because we can give them credit if they have decent equipment, and that. So the Livingston had an advanced manufacturing industrial maintenance mechatronics in the Upper Cumberland. Course offerings include both dual enrollment courses in mechatronics at the full-time post-secondary adult learners. Additionally, instructors have integrated the Level 1 Siemens Certified Mechatronics System into their program. This certificate enables graduates to demonstrate the universal competencies necessary to fulfill the basic operations in advanced manufacturing. In the fall, the 2015 mechatronics dual enrollment classes started in Putnam and White counties. They have awarded 196 industrial certificates and 22 full-time certified production technician certificates. They have also certified 127 students with a Snap-on meter certification. And then Shelbyville did something very similar. It got to expand to 3 different sites in mechatronics and industrial maintenance. But one of the nice things about that is that from the students that started in the fall, 96% of those students are still in school. You know, they're expecting those 96% that complete will have 100% placement opportunities. You know, as you can see, the $10 million 1.0 LEAP grant provided many opportunities for both dual enrollment students as well as adult learners. Students were served in 51 of the 95 counties through our grant. And the grant also provided over 15,000 training and workforce opportunities for our citizens as high school students and adults. So I think, Warren, we're going to touch base on a little of the next phase, and I think you can see why so much excitement for LEAP 2 in this.
Thank you, Vice Chancellor.
I hope it doesn't go unnoticed how much tag teaming that the community colleges and TCATs are doing. This is not only are we partners and colleagues, but we're actually friends, and it's great when we truly can work collaboratively and you know, for the betterment of our students and our state. But let's talk about, okay, that's, you know, the 2014, they're still working on that, but now the governor's office has said that it worked so well, why don't we do it again? So now what we have is the second iteration of the program continues by encouraging and facilitating the alignment of the local workforce and education partners through an additional $10 million competitive grant process. Now this time, the grants are up to $1 million, and they will be available for the local collaboratives for periods of up to 30 months to facilitate the development and implementation of employer-driven career pathways that include both K through 12 school districts and higher education institutions. The proposals that you see in front of you, not only from us but from the TCATs, these are proposals only. All proposals. The intention to propose had to be submitted in May. So now that we have notified the state that we are exploring possibilities, the next step, the colleges and the TCATs must submit their full proposal by July 27th of this year. So what you are looking at from both us and the TCATs are what we believe we're working on, but these are still in draft form and can be changed, and in some respects will be changed. Again, I point you to the diversity of things that our colleges are seeking, and you will see that in almost every instance, it's equipment. As we were doing our tours today, and Dr. Gilliam, excellent tours, by the way. As we were doing the tours, Regent Thomas made the comment about the sophisticated equipment that our colleges have. Well, it is sophisticated equipment, and it's not cheap. And not only is it not cheap, it constantly needs to be updated and upgraded and all of that. So these, without the support of our state and with these type of grants, we would certainly not be where we are today. Again, advanced manufacturing, engineering, mechatronics. Columbia State's got a sleep program and anesthesia technology program that they are trying to get off the ground. So I'm very proud of our community colleges for what they're doing and for the initiatives that they're going. And again, all of this is in cooperation and in conversations and discussions with businesses and industries. So the linkages are there. Please. And again, Nashville State is doing one. We just didn't get their information updated in time, so I apologize to Nashville State for not having that information. Again, it just some really interesting occupations and programs that they're going to be looking at, Carol. And then without any draft changes, they're looking at $13.4 million. Remember, it was for $10 million. So we don't expect all of these to be funded, and if so, not at the price, not at what they're requesting, but, and then, of course, that does include the TCATs, what they're going to be requesting as well. But we're very excited about it, but just did want to make sure that you were aware that we are fully taking advantage of the opportunity that the governor's office is providing us. So, James?
And what Warren failed to mention, there could be communities doing this without with either one of our campuses. There could be community partnerships, so there could be an outside group coming in. If they meet the criteria, they can do that. And as you can see, I think I'm going to highlight just a couple of key ones. I think when you look at the TCAT Nashville, they're looking at diesel and automotive maintenance. That's a partnership with the Nashville's Mayor's Initiative as well to provide jobs. I think the TCAT Marshtown is looking at the second phase of what they're already doing and taking that work ethic diploma and expanding that to more industries, and their entire high school graduating classes are going to be sort of required to do that. So you're really ramping up that even a notch more. And I think when you look at the TCAT, you're looking at another $10 million. So I think between the two systems, we're looking at about $23 million submitting. Where that falls, there are proposals. I think the proposal is going to be good. It's going to be a tough task, like it was last time, to select these campuses. I think in the TCATs they range from anywhere from right at $1 million to $145,000. So, and sometimes one of those $145,000 is going to slide in because they need to fill in a gap to make their $1 million. So some of those may get funded, but they're all good projects. I'm excited at the end of the day to see what happens out of this, and I think you should be as well. And hopefully we could ask some of the campuses to come forward and highlight some of the good things they're doing instead of Warren and I struggling through trying to say what they're doing. And I wish all the campuses the very best in this process. And I know Senator Norris has gone around the state speaking about some of these grants, and he seems real excited. So that's why he saw so many good things going on across the state from our schools, that's why it was easy to fund another $10 million for this. It would have been nice if he'd funded about $25 million for this. So, do you have any questions?
Any questions?
Yes. Well, I just wanted to say I had the opportunity, I think it was last fall, to go to Livingston for a celebration of the LEAP program there. Right. And Myra West, who runs our TCAT there, who's a force of nature unto herself, put on, just a great day. But you could feel in that room and in the program the excitement in the community about the partnership, the involvement of the local high school, the involvement of local business and industry. This is a formula that works, and it was not only exciting to be there, it's exciting to know this is going on across our great state. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Regent Reynolds, what I remember about that day is the gentleman that spoke on behalf of the industries. He got there 3 hours early where he could interview students in the machine technology program. He was there at a personal agenda. And one thing going on in Memphis, Regent Prescott, is I think the Memphis school their partnership is going to be for the medical device industries. That is the hot topic right now, in Memphis area, and we're really hoping to address that need because that's exciting more than anything to see. Machinists at the highest level, students graduating with $35 an hour jobs and getting to wear blue button-down shirts and khaki slacks in a machining environment. So it's a pretty good gig if they can get it. So, and there's just not enough of them. So we're hoping so it's a lot of good things going on. Right?
Yes.
James said it right there at the end. If you let this sort of the subject matter of these LEAP grants sort of marinate on you a little bit, you see the appetite in our state for programs like mechatronics and advanced manufacturing, program logic, control, robotics and those kind of things. And you said it, these are excellent paying jobs, and the completion rates of students completing these programs and going out into our workforce will advance our state. So just pay attention, if you would, to the who is being trained under these grant programs, because they're very beneficial. And I just want to also just say to our presidents and directors, thank you for your attention to these, because I think they're very, very vital.
Ridge Reynolds, Myra is in Louisville supporting her students today.
Okay, good. Thank you so much, Vice Chancellor King. And I think finally, Dr. Nichols is going to wrap this up with the AT&T Aspire Scholarship Award.
Yes, ma'am. This next topic is a fantastic way to close out the day, I believe. AT&T approached us a couple of months ago with a offer to provide us with some money for scholarships for each of our community colleges to award to non-traditional, underserved adult populations in two-year degree workforce programs. I was hoping that they would be here today, but I expect that we will see them at our September board meeting. But these grants, I will, Monday, I will send the information to our colleges on Monday so that they can start working towards securing these grants. I don't want to say too much at this point because I don't want to steal AT&T's thunder, but I am very, very, very happy that AT&T has reached out to us and said, how can we be more involved in making sure that community college students are being served. So again, unless you force me to say more, Madam Chair, I'll just leave that for now. So,
I'm not so inclined.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vice Chancellor.
Thank you.
All right. Any questions or any other concerns? And I move to adjourn. Yes? All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Regent Varlin. And we'll give a preliminary thanks to AT&T, and the Tennessee President, Joelle Phillips, also chairs the Governor's Drive to 55 Alliance. So she gets it and knows exactly what we're all trying to do. So that's very exciting, and we'll look forward to hearing more. To Francis and Seth and Emma and Paul, thank you for joining us this afternoon. Any closing comments or observations you'd like to share?
Thank you for spending some time in our beautiful community college. I hope you enjoy it.
Absolutely. As you heard, the tours were already a big success, and we'll be back at it tomorrow. So, Seth, anyone else? Thank you very much. Thank you for all you do. As I said when we started, you were all stars as students and faculty, and we are deeply grateful to each of you. So thank you so much. Thank you, Paul. And to our committee members, your reports and materials for tomorrow's meeting will be on our TBR app later this afternoon. For our committee chairs, your committee reports will be at the front desk of the hotel when we return from dinner this evening. When the Chancellor mentioned marinating and appetites, made me think we're not too far from our evening activities. President Gilliam, would you come forward for any announcements you would like to make? I know we have breakfast here in the morning before we begin our meeting, and we will also hear a presentation from President Gilliam tomorrow morning at 9 about this great community college, Northeast State. But Janice, anything for us before we close today? And thank you for the hospitality.
It's our honor to serve, and I'd just like to thank all of our staff who've worked very hard to provide everything, all of the events. We have a treat for you this evening. We have a lot of sponsors. We'll be sharing all of that with you this evening and tomorrow. And just have a great evening. Dinner is at 6:30 at Bays Mountain Eastman Lodge.
And we have some student performances tonight as well?
We do. We have theater and entertainment technology. So
Excellent.
you're in for a treat.
It's very exciting, and thanks again to your team. We love being on our campuses, and we know you're happy to see us come, but we recognize you are equally happy to see us go when these meetings are over, because it is a tremendous amount of work, so thank you.
Thank you so
for your
much.
leadership.
Thank you.
Chancellor, any closing comments or announcements?
No, ma'am.
That's the briefest I've ever heard.
Don't give me a second chance.
Exactly. With that, we stand adjourned. Thank you.